New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Rev Brisbane over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Opportunity for Rev Z and I and our occasional guests to get together and look at the future evolution of New Thought, the philosophy, and how it humanity's evolution as well. For those of you that were just watching the great and glorious Wisdom of the Mystics with today's special guest, Reverend Temple Hayes, thank you for joining us and sticking around and coming on over to check us out as well. If you have not caught that program, by the way, we were watching before we went live. Really great interview over on Wisdom of the Mystics today. Reverend Kathy and practitioner Laura interviewing Temple Hayes about the life and times of Myrtle Fillmore. Really great and deep discussion and a lot of great history and a lot of great practical wisdom for today on that program. Please check that out when you get a chance. All right, Z, so here we are. Well, I guess let's just say hello first because we got a lot to cover.
Yeah. Hello, man. It's believe it or not, I can't almost. It's 53 degrees in Denver, Colorado, when we were -5 earlier in the week, last week anyway. And so it's just like, wow, times they are a changing. And so we have to be prepared for everything and anything because that's what's coming at us right now.
Yes, the climate, she is a changing. That's for sure. And the times are as well, folks. And that's part of what we want to talk about today. You know, it's interesting in our preparation, we got to a point where we realized what we're talking about is how do we reconcile humanity's awakening with the experiences of humans waking up and waking up to what's going on around them in the world.
Yeah.
And what's always been happening in the world. So it's a very, very interesting and deep conversation. I will say that for me, it began by really over the last couple days now, a few days now, if you haven't heard, there's been a protest happening up in Ottawa, Canada, the capital of Canada. They have amazing Z. It's 11, 12 days now, and nobody's rushed and stormed the Capitol.
No, not at all.
It's a Canadian protest, so we'll start there. Peaceful, loving people, and it's a unique experience. So share a little with what you've seen of it so far. I'll say.
Yeah, well, I really just kind of tuned into it today. I caught a newscast where they were saying that it's going on for a while, and it started over Toronto way, and I think it was Toronto, Quebec, and then now they have people from as far away as Alaska and from the British Columbia all the way back. Truckers, I think they say they have like 500 truckers and 7,000 people, and they're making protests about vaccinations, proof of vaccination to come across the line to deliver food or pick up goods or whatever it is. And so it started. The thing I heard today was interesting because it said it started out as truckers. Now it seems like it may be more people, different groups, And so, but the main thing, it's been peaceful, and people have their platforms there. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And what I know is, yes, it's kind of started everywhere in Canada and converged upon Ottawa, the nation's capital. Last night, and that's been going on in Ottawa for 11 days now. There's been trucks parked on the street. Uh, they were doing the horn honking thing for many days and many nights. That's now stopped, and they say that was effective. It disrupted and it gained attention, and there's a negotiation going on, and they have a list of demands, and that those demands include that the country, the state, the country's government remove all masking and vaccine mandates across the country. The two sides on if this is a negotiation might need a few mediators to get them together on some of these things. I don't know if the entire country is really going to consider completely rescinding their mask mandates and vaccine mandates. Now, it is interesting, Z. I find this is all happening when there's a lot of talk going on around in the United States about letting go of the mandates, at least the masking mandates. I know here in Jefferson County, I've heard things that's going to happen here in Colorado. I've heard things about California and other places where mask mandates are scheduled to expire, and they're not going to be extended, and we're going to be back to, I guess, your own personal choice if you wear a mask or not, or will we now be ostracized for wearing masks?
Well, that's true. I think, as I have been following it, by the end of February, I anticipate, at least in the state of Colorado, no mask mandates. Some counties have already done it. I think one or two are going to hit there next Friday, and a couple of other counties, big counties, are talking about it today or this week. But the thing that sticks out to me in all of this, right, is this idea of change, right? We've gone through 2 years of change where we've had to adjust to the pandemic and figure out what's safe and what's acceptable and productive and all these different kinds of adjectives, verbs, I guess those are really. And now they're changed. The environment is changing. That sounds familiar. The environment is changing. And so now we have to figure out another way of being. We have to figure out another way of interacting. And at the same time, for those that are fully on board with the holistic approach to life, what's safe? What's acceptable? And so, as we were talking earlier, we look at life as this spiral, not as a circle. And so now we see we're back to point zero again, but we're a little more degrees higher, and the same vibrational resignation of unsure, newness, fear, all those things are right back, but now they're at a higher level, a little big frequency, maybe some different terms or names. And we have to begin to figure out collectively and individually, but definitely collectively, how are we going to manage a world that is going to always be changing?
Yeah. Yes. How do we manage? How do we reconcile humanity's awakening with the messiness of humans waking up?
Yeah.
And we're waking up to, some people are waking up to the fact they've known the truth all along. Some people are waking up to the fact that they've been lied to all along. And some people don't know what they're waking up to just yet. and that's okay, but
Yeah.
it's part of the experience. It's part of what we're going through. We don't want to make anybody wrong in any of this, because it takes all of this for all of us to awaken to our spiritual magnificence.
Yeah.
We have to have the reflections of what we don't understand, and we have to be able to reflect upon the things we don't that we don't agree with.
Right.
And but as we were also talking, right, this is where we have to start becoming aware of our internal biases. Yep. And our cultural bias. Yep. As well.
Yep. And if we just, it's all right here in front of us. If we look at the conversations that are being had about Joe Rogan, and if we look at all the conversations that are being had about what Whoopi said the other day on her program, we begin to realize, if we'll awake our awakening, that everybody has a bias, i.e. another way of saying that is a worldview or a point of view or a perspective of life. And we know that these things are in some part, if not a large part, cultivated and created by our life experiences. That's why you hear us so much in New Thought talking about change your mind, change your thought, and change your life, right? Because what we see is based out of what we've seen before. And if we continue to see that in our minds, we will continue to see it in reality. So we have to change our thought about things. We have to change the way we look at things. We have to change the way we are maneuvering in the world and looking at this family of planet, right? The rocks and the birds included, to figure out what is, and for all you math people, you got that thing called a standard deviation, and you got the outliers. We need to figure out what's the mean standard in that standard, and how do we try to get there with the plus or minus to make things happen.
Right. I agree. Right. We have to come to that mean standard, because the outliers, while might point us in the general direction, very, very rarely are enough to skew the whole thing, to skew the whole experiment. And what I'm seeing in this freedom convoy, which is their name for it, is a sense of, I've lost these freedoms. And in many people's minds, there's a battle for what freedom will look like in the future.
Yeah.
And if we come into that battle believing that we have already lost, and that we are fighting to regain our freedoms, or to regain an experience that we used to have, or a way of being that used to be, or an environment, a philosophy that we've already lost.
Yeah.
And I think many on this freedom convoy don't quite see it, that don't quite understand that their battle was lost when they even began to believe that they could be anything but free. And our work is to move through the experiences we're having, through the mandates, through what we perceive as government overreach, to operate through all that, to continue to see that we've always been free, our nature is to be free, and we can continue to just be free, without holding on to our horn for 45 minutes at a time.
Well, and here's the thing, is you mentioned it earlier a little bit, and I want to just point to it again. We talked about everybody having a bias, and we talked about outliers, or people who are on the fringes, if you will. That's not the best way to say it, but and you mentioned that everything plays a part. Everything has a place. So we're not trying to blame or shame anybody, because oftentimes it is the outliers who point out deficiencies or accelerations, for lack of a better word, to move us forward and to create a new standard deviation and a new mean. So if we begin to make them totally wrong, whether they're on the so-called right or so-called left, we do ourselves a disservice. So it becomes a primary opportunity and question at the same time to listen to what people have to say and put it in perspective, so that we can begin to see, are they truly outliers, or are they just outliers looking at things from a different perspective that are pointing to something that, and if I'm in here with my blinders on, I don't see what's out here, right? And it may be small, but as it grows, it's going to come in my view. And when it does, I might not like it, or it might not be healthy. So we have to continue to take the whole of all things and look at them with a vision of where do we want to go. Because without a vision, I'm not going to say the normal thing, we will perish. We already know that. But more importantly, if we don't have a vision, we don't know when we got to where we're looking for, or we don't even know what we're looking for.
Exactly, yes. And you bring up a great point, because that's something, and I will say this about other major protests we've seen in the last couple of years as well. The modern day protest rarely has a vision or a list of demands, if you will. Now, I'll speak in a second. This group does actually have a list of demands, from what or as loosely organized as they are. But the modern day protest is generally, we're protesting everything. Whether it's a left leaning perspective or it's a right leaning perspective, we're starting to categorize everything as in, and it's the I'm right, you're wrong mentality. Yeah. In earlier today, in preparation for this, as I was contemplating what we might talk about, I was reminded of the Mother Teresa quote that I will not attend an anti-war rally. When you have a peace rally, come find me. Paraphrase badly, but and it feels like this is another anti-mandate, anti-vaccine, anti-overreach. Oh no, wait, we're for the people, but their only real demands are that the things they don't like be taken away.
Yeah.
They don't want their personal freedom impugned. So they want to take away the mask mandate, and they want to take away the vaccine mandate, and they want to take away the things they don't like. That's not progress to me. That's not a prescription or a vision to move forward. That's purely a get out of my face and let me have mine, and I need what I got to get, and you can go whatever.
Well, and the interesting thing about that, you would think, or one would think, that after going through 2 years of what we've just gone through, this whole idea of some total individuality should be the farthest thing for your mind, because we can see from this pandemic, things affect everybody, right? We started with someone who was sick with the virus, and it spread to another person. Well, then at that point, it's no longer just your thing. Now it's that other person's thing. And then pretty soon it went to many people, and now it was many people. And then because of that, guess what? Supply chains start changing. Demands on the hospital start changing. Demands on the educational system start changing. And so it was no longer me and mine. It's everybody. So someone has taken a stance of me and mine, but it doesn't work that way. That me and mine is affecting everybody. And so go ahead.
I was, when we take 900,000 people out of the American population, everybody's lost a me and mine. Right? Somewhere, somehow, if you have not been in some way touched by that, you have, whether you know it or not. Yeah, I would have hoped 2 years in we would have been beyond the me and mine stage, but it doesn't appear that we are in this instance.
No,
I reserve the right to be wrong, folks. If you're seeing this from a different perspective, chat in the chat box. Let us know. Even if it's after the fact and you're watching the replay, we'll respond. Let us know, because I do reserve the right to be wrong here. I don't think I am, but if I am, I'll admit it. I'll say it, because really what I think was happening here, Z and I do this, we're a couple of friends trying to walk each other home, trying to figure this out so that we don't fall into the darkness too.
Yeah. I like that. And you had you had an analogy that you talked about before we got on the air that I think is appropriate. If you'd share that with everyone right now, I think that'd be a great way to continue this conversation.
Absolutely. So we were talking, folks, again, so our theme is reconciling this experience of humanity's awakening with the messiness of humans waking up. And one of the things Z shared was that in that knowledge, we also have to, or in that waking up, we also have to have the knowledge, the information, and the means to embrace and enact the change that's in front of us. And what that led me to was a camping trip, our camping trips. See, I don't think we know what we're waking up to. And I love a good camping trip where I could drive into the wilderness at night in the dark, which often happens for most of us, right? And you drive in the dark and you don't know what it is that you're going to see in the morning. Now, you do have an expectation because you've either gone there because you've been there before, but then that's a memory, or you're going there because somebody told you it's a really cool place. In
That's
which
a
case
vision.
that's a vision or an expectation.
Yeah.
And we pull in, it's dark, you get some sleep, and you wake up in the morning, and you're going to have one of three experiences. You're going to be disappointed because it doesn't match the memory you had or the vision you were expecting. You're going to be content because, yeah, this is about right. Or you're going to be elated because it's more than you remember or more than you envisioned.
Yeah.
I don't think the planet, I don't know that we know what we're waking up to. And I think that scares a lot of people. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that are sleepwalking through their lives right now, easily manipulated, being directed by propaganda. And I think there's a lot of people sleepwalking through their lives, not knowing what they're in the process of awakening to or being woken up to.
And part of that is, we're all fearful of something, and I think most of us are fearful of going into the unknown. So a lot of us, I think, are settling for the mess that we have now because they have no idea or vision or whatever inkling about what's on the other side, what's truly on the other side. Now, a lot of people, and myself included, I mean, in some ways, there's that inkling that nothing's going to change, it's just going to intensify, right? There's not going to be any reconciliation. There's not going to be any healing. There's not going to be any of that, right?
Right.
But we also remember, change your thinking, change your life. So we have to get out of that mode because we know nothing has ever recreated itself in the exact same way ever.
Yes.
Even if you do cloning, even if you clone, there's some slight differences between the cloned and the clonee, right? Or the cloner, whatever. I don't even know how to say it.
But I'm going to go off topic, but go ahead.
But we have to begin, when we look at great individuals in life that we may aspire to be like or admire, these are people who look beyond the current circumstances and said, with the information that I have and the awareness and insight that has been blessed in me, I can see something different. And even if I'm out here in front of the band as the drum major by myself, I'm marching. And if I get the music right, if I get the step just right, we're going to get some people following and it's going to get good. And then we're going to be out there and people say, man, I should have got in earlier. Or I'm glad I'm getting in now, whatever. But that's the kind of approach we have to take to healing this situation that we're in.
And the drums of fear have always had a stronger pull on the human psyche than the drums of vision.
Yeah.
That's something we can change. All right. So back to the cloning thing. I can't leave it. I've been trying to figure out how to put that, right? Because that's the big problem on Facebook is everybody gets cloned. They think they get hacked, but they're not getting hacked because they don't have your access to your account. They're cloning you. They're cloning, they're pretending to, and here's how you can tell the clone is there's always something wrong with the picture. It's got one of the little cause banners, or it's got a little flake, a little flower in the corner that it shouldn't. And your real profile picture won't have that. And the cloned profile picture will always have an addition to the profile picture that isn't normally there. That's how the scammers know which is the real account and which is the fake account. And your account and the one they're controlling. All right. Rant over.
Well, no, that's a great point, because I get requests all the time from people that are already my friend to be my friend.
Right.
And I'm like, but you're already my friend. So I know immediately to delete that or not respond to that. And so as we look at this changing paradigm that we're involved in, we have to be aware enough to know who we're dealing with, right?
Yes, right.
And we have to get out of and just stand in this Facebook vernacular, accepting everybody as a friend when you don't even know them. I don't know how many friend requests from somebody who knows somebody that I know. I have never met them in my life, but they want to be a friend. Now, a friendship requires a little more than just, looking at your picture or whatever. And they, at best, they could be associates. And I'm getting there because now we have these associations, if you will. We don't quite know what people's ideologies are, what their way of life is. And we miss opportunities to find our authentic group. Heart cells will never become lung cells. Now they can support each other, but you're never going to see them flip-flopping. And that's how we have to begin to understand that we are a organized organ called life, that we need to be able to respect the differences, but accept the beauty and the gift that they bring to the whole at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm reminded of the song, that old song, "I'm Big in Japan." But if you go by my Facebook friend requests, I'm big in India. Real big in India.
Yes.
So, and that is part of it, right? We've got to be able to discern. And that to me is the spiritual maturity that comes with all of this, is being able to look beyond the what's best for just the me humanness, but sit back a minute and not get caught up in the rush to be a part of the fix,
right?
To be a part of the healing to come. What comes next? To be able to sit back just a little bit longer and say, what's really happening here? So, Z, I'm going to put you on. I've got something I'm going to have to deal with here coming through on my other line. So I'm going to give you the reins and let you take this. And I'm going to take a quick moment and be back. If you want to run a commercial, do that. But if I don't figure out what this is, I could get in trouble.
All right, bring it on. Yeah. So, while Robert is taking care of that necessary business, I think he made a great point there as he was leaving, in that we have to begin to, I think, know our value, know what we bring to the table, and then not be afraid to present it. I mean, you've heard the story 1,000 times, if not more, excuse me, about the orchestra playing and the cymbal guy. He's been there for an hour and a half, holding the cymbals, waiting for his one moment, excuse me, to hit the cymbal, which brings the whole thing to the crescendo and to the finality and just brings it all together. He's not mad because he had to sit there for an hour and a half before he got a chance to do his thing. He's there anticipating and waiting with joy to, like, when my part comes, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it so well. It's going, the only thing people are going to be talking about, yeah, it was a great concert. But did you see that guy on the cymbal? That guy was, he was on top of his game with that cymbal. And that's how we have to begin to engage. Whatever it is, do your thing, because it has an important part. And if we miss that part, the whole thing begins to break down.
Very true. All right, so here we are, Z, right? We're waking up, and some of us are waking up to this perspective or a view that this ain't right, and I got to go do something to change the government. I got to go do something. How do we come together as a people when some people are waking up to, for lack of better terms, a left and right perspective of what's happening in our country? Because there are people out there all over the place promoting this ideology of populism, of me, mine, as the great awakening to the next wonderful age of humanity's evolution. It feels like I want to find a both and it's very difficult.
Yeah, that's an interesting part that we're going to have to work through, because it is that way. Everybody, we have to change the paradigm, I think, is the first step, in that everybody is in the me, my culture. Everybody's looking for a material gain, right? Now, we know we can't live without some material, right? Some material food, some material clothes, some material immaterial air. We understand.
Some of us like more material than others, yeah.
And so when in my opinion, when someone starts pitching something, that the value proposition for me seems way less than the value proposition for the person who's pitching it, I gotta question it, or that raises a flag to say, question this. And then I wanted to pop this thing up from Linda, which I think speaks directly to this whole thing about discernment, right? Because discernment requires investments of thought and an application of one's values. And I think that's very key, because we have to begin how to sift through all of the stuff that's coming at us. It's not like when our grandparents, take you a week or a month to get a mail. You may get 1,000 emails in a day.
Yeah.
You have to be able to discern and go through that and look at things and discern what's yours. As this, there's the popular saying, "What's mine to do," right? So when, last analogy, and oh no, I love analogy. When we eat food, right, and then we get all the minerals and vitamins and things that come with that, each individual part of the body discerns what vitamin or what mineral it needs from that food that just came in, and then the body as a whole determines and discerns what needs to be let go of and what needs to be kept. And nature is the best teacher, bar none. It was around before we got here, and it'll be around when we check out.
Yes. and we have persistent and shifting values.
Yes.
I want to provide an example of that. So now we can find all kinds of unhealthy examples of shifting values, but this is one where recently I recognized that I haven't taken a class in a while. I still learn things, and I go and I learn from here and these, but I hadn't been in a learning environment with people. in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, I just kind of had been talking to my wife over lunch one day that, I'm kind of looking for something. I don't know what. If you see something you think might interest me, let me know. And da da da. And well, I get, like you were just saying, how many emails a day? And a lot of them, yeah, 9:30 at night, delete, 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 delete. Sometimes at 10 the next morning, delete, 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 because I didn't look at them the night before. But in that, I had set an intention. I had set an intention loose in the universe that I wanted to be in a learning environment. And yes, I was much more discerning about what emails I deleted as I allowed myself to find a class that I was going to, and I now enrolled in something and da 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 da. And so that value of education rose to the top for just long enough to identify an activity, an event, an experience, an opportunity. Now I'm not looking at more education stuff.
Right.
Classes, I get 20 class opportunities a day, 20 to at least 20 a day. Say, take this class, come take this class, come take that class. Now that discernment, that value has been pushed back down in the drawer. And I'm not making discernments based on that value any longer. Thank you, Linda. It's a great way to look at it. Great help.
Yeah. And I would invite everyone to set some intentions and write it down and go and look at it and be aware of what it takes or how long it takes or what the circumstances are for that opportunity to circle around into your preview.
Yeah.
Because I put out at the beginning of the year, I put out a request, if you will, and I got hit with two big ones. They're good ones, but they're big ones and they're scary ones. I also deeply believe that there's no burden placed on us that we cannot bear.
True. Yes.
Whether we have to do it ourselves, whether we have to get a little help from our friends, whatever it is, if a situation is put before us, no matter how hard it seems, we have the information, the knowledge, and the wherewithal to make it happen.
No thing too big for God.
No. And because God is everywhere we are, then we're ready to roll. Yep. We're ready to roll.
Yep. There's a sense of peace, not always happiness, but a sense of peace for me when those kind of things pop up. Yeah. Where I'm like, oh, baby, this no, this is way too no. And it only takes a little of that before I come to a place of peace that it's like, all right, I might not be happy about this, but it's in my life. Yeah. And that means it's got to be mine to deal with.
And the interesting thing about that you just said just took me way back into this idea for anyone who's ever done orienteering. Where, and orienteering kind of competitions. I did it when I was at Fort Knox, Kentucky, a different kind of orienteering, but orienteering is just the same. You get a map and there are points on your map and you have to take that map and use your compass and find out from where you are how to get to point 1, point 2, point 3, and then get back to the rendezvous point. Now, when you get there, you have to write down the number because everybody may be on a similar path, but they supposed to got different points. Well, if we're not checking every once in a while the map to reality, we will get completely and utterly lost, right? If we go solely by the map, we may get lost. If we go solely by the terrain, we will get lost. And so in terms of this changing world, it's always changing. You can go places where one time it was forest, now it's a supermarket. I'm lost. I'm looking for the forest.
Well, 6 months ago, this hamburger only cost me $3. What do you mean it's $6 today?
Yes. So we have to be in tune. And that requires us to back to that original point that there's nothing that we can't overcome, or there's nothing that we can't accomplish. We have to continue to look at the map and look at the terrain. Look at the map, look at the terrain, and adjust them in just that way so we get to the orienteering points, whether it's, successful relationship, successful career, a gracious community, whatever it is, that's what we need to be working on, looking at map, whether that's an ideology or religion or whatever it is, in terms of how it's taught, and then how it's showing up in the world. And then we make the adjustments, because it's going to always adjust.
Right. Because that burger is never going back to $3. It could be $6.
Maybe $3.25, but it ain't going back to $3.
But it'll never go right. And again, that's part of it for me is let's be realistic. Wearing masks in public is part of what comes next, whether it's mandated or not. And because we're learning, we're awakening, we're waking up to the fact that this is actually good public health policy. And anybody that thinks it isn't doing their homework, in my opinion. We can look at Japan and the Orient, who have been having voluntary masks as a normal part of society for long enough to know that it ain't killing them.
Right.
Wearing the mask is not right. It's not hurting that culture to wear masks. It's not wearing the masks that are killing people. And it seems to me there's no question we're not done here. The concept of a pandemic, while this one may be waning, and while we might be able to say this is going into an endemic stage or phase, this is part of what we know as reality moving forward.
Yeah.
There are bugs, and those bugs will mutate, and there will be super bugs, and we will go through this, and we will learn how to manage the experiences. We will learn how to navigate the terrain better. But once you understand that there is ground underneath the ocean, you can't go back to pretending that the ocean is just a flat piece of water to get between here and there.
Yeah. That's, we have so many things to propel us to the highest of the heights. We now have to stop politicizing, pontificating, pick a word that's in that vein, and we have to start practicing, which means the first time I try to kick a field goal, I might not make it, which means the first time I try to reach across the aisle to resolve an issue or to clean up a misunderstanding, it might fall flat on its face.
Yep.
But if I'm committed, think about last week before last in the football playoffs, somebody kicked like a 60-something yard field goal. Now, I remember when there was a guy named Jack Dempsey who kicked the field goal. He had a half a foot, and he kicked that thing over 50-something yards. Now, these guys are kicking that thing that far, some of them barefooted. I mean, the vision changed, and the first time they tried that, I'm sure it was a challenge. It's like they said there could never be a sub 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
And then the guy ran the 4-minute mile, sub 4-minute mile, and I think they said within a couple of months, 2 or 3 people have broke his record.
Right.
Because once they saw it was achievable, once that vision was there and obtained, now they're we can do that. Well, we might even be able to do a little more. And that's how we have to take our approach to resolving these issues, to facing these pandemics, dealing with race relationships, dealing with political differences. I mean, right now, the whole world is on edge and concern about this war potentiality that's happening between Ukraine and Russia. And because the way the lines are drawn, if a war breaks out between Ukraine and Russia, everybody on opposite sides are already in war, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
So, you know,
you're very right. Some honking horns in the middle of the outback, in the middle of Canada, may be the least of the world's worries very soon enough. But and that's another great topic you bring into all of this. Is there is it would appear for many the prevailing consciousness is one of insecurity.
Yeah.
and what we know is that it is anything that's against the nature. The nature is security. The nature is that we are secure in who we are and where we are and that we are. We've had to learn how to feel that sense of security in our possessions and our domicile and what we have. And that, I think, in many ways eroded our sense of security in who we are and that we are. I'd like to see us come back to more of that sense of security, and where. I mean, I won't even begin to try to answer what's going on in the Ukraine. We'll be here all week.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's touchy.
But I think it does point us to that human desire and human's need for a sense of security.
Yeah. Well,
for that sense that we're okay.
Yeah, and when we think about it, I'll just look at my own life and my own moments of war, if you will, whether it's against myself or someone else. I would say 8 times out of 10, there was no real threat. There was a perceived threat based on past experiences or insecurities or inconsistencies that were going on with me. But the actuality of me being actually threatened 8 times out, 2 out of 10 was correct. 8 of it was all in my imagination.
Exactly. Yep. If you haven't watched it in a while, folks, go check out Wag the Dog. Great film. Because as you were sharing, I just thought to myself, yeah, there were no weapons of mass destruction. Right? We took our country to war over a narrative that many believed, and that enough believed to decimate another country over.
Yeah.
And to be proven that our beliefs were false.
Yeah, and not to mention how many lives were lost on both sides.
Exactly. And on both sides.
And so now which that's a perfect example of how are we doing that right now when we look at the political landscape of redistricting in different places and creating big hullabaloos over whether masks should or should not be worn in school and all these different things. Just like that war, we went to war and people lost their lives, property was destroyed, and God knows what historical things were lost or what valuables were lost. And we are right in that same kind of predicament, but just in a different battleground, if you will. And one day we're going to wake up and somebody's going to read a report that's been buried and redacted that says, we did this to do ABC, or we went this way because it was XYZ. And people are going to say, well, that was crazy. We lost almost 1 million people for that.
Right. History is 2020, folks. We do know that. Hindsight is 2020. History is often, and history often reflects differently based on how long we wait. And so again, like I see that I can absolutely empathize with that sense of the government's done us wrong. I'm tired of believing what the government's been telling us. and the people have to stand up and take back the power and the control. I understand that. I think there's another way.
Yeah.
I think there's I can't prescribe exactly what it is, but I think there's another way rather than just putting the brakes on, all puns intended, and putting the brakes on an entire country's government and economy
Yeah.
and progress.
Yeah.
That to me feels out of alignment.
Yeah, and just like that movie you were thinking about, Wag the Dog, we're getting behind, approaches to settling. And the question is the thing I'm putting my time, money, and energy behind does it really exist? There was no mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. A lot of people got behind that, rah, 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 and it created havoc. Now, are we doing the same thing in a political arena, in a business arena, in an educational arena, which ultimately leads to we're further advancing someone else's idea for their own gain in a lot of cases, as opposed to looking at really solving a problem, if there's a problem to be solved at all.
Exactly. Yes, Linda, history is often written by the winners. We're working. I trust we're working collectively towards a perspective where there's no winners or losers in any of this. Where we're bringing humanity back to its own nature, and where we do realize that we are deeply we are one.
Yeah.
That at the very core of who and what we are on this planet is that experience and that sense of oneness. And I think that's been lost over time. And we're part of the work we do here on this network, part of the work I know Rev Z does in his community, CSL, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, is reawakening within everyone, and is anybody that'll listen, reawakening that sense that we are one. And as one, there is nothing we shall not overcome. It's only in our sense and our belief in separateness that the flaws become cracks and become chasms and become divides.
Yep. We it would behoove us, okay? It would behoove us as individuals and collectively to really begin to take inventory and find out what we stand for. Not what somebody else told us we should stand for, or not what we used to stand for, because as the saying goes, used to bees don't make no honey, right? And so now we have to stand in what we are facing right now with all of the changes in our environment, our race relations, our political, and we have to begin to acknowledge and accept this moment as a true awakening, in the fact that it gives us an opportunity to do something different, because we've been doing what we're doing now for a very long time, and we keep getting the same results.
Yep.
The pendulum just switched from the left to the right.
Yes, from blue to red. All right, folks, this is New Thought Today. I think we're going to wrap this up, let you get into your afternoon, the rest of your afternoon. Rev Z and myself, we like to come together on Tuesdays. We don't pretend that we're going to solve anything. We don't pretend there's anything wrong or broken. But we do sometimes take a look at what we don't understand. Today, I think there's been a little of that, and I think we've also come to a little bit of understanding of what is happening, how we can take a look at the events of our world, and how we can use those as catalysts to create change.
Yeah,
the kind of change that's going to do good in the world.
Yep.
Z, let's say thank you to our sponsors and all our friends that make this possible before we wrap it up and share our final thoughts. What do you say?
Sounds like a winner.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Heckerland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ogden, thank you for your very generous donation. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Yes, thank you, dear ones, for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. If you'd like to get on our committed giving program, please head on over to the website, ntmedia.org, click on donate, make it a monthly contribution of any amount, and we'll get you on the thank you video and share a special personal gratitude with you as well. All right, Z, we've got just another moment here before our time is up. Final thoughts for the day.
My final thoughts is, everyone, let's go out and determine who it is we want to be in this new world. And then let's go find the information, the people, the resources to make it happen, so that we really begin to see this world as a world that works for all.
Yes. I believe mine is really focused around, don't let the messiness of human awakening scare you away from the awakening of humanity. And we are the ones we've been waiting for, and we've just got to keep moving forward to make it all happen.
Yeah.
We're going to share one more opportunity for you to be involved in a global way with New Thought Media Network. However, Z and I are going to slip out the back door while this rolls. So we'll say goodbye now. Wish you a great week. Hope to see you again next week. Until next time. Peace.
Peace.